This is a short presentation on Alfred Lord Tennyson's famous poem, The Lady of Shalott. Before talking about the poem, it might be worth just talking a little bit about the author, the poet Alfred Lord Tennyson. He was born in 1809 in a small village in Lincolnshire called Somersby. And his father was a rector, so his father was a preacher, a vicar in the Anglican Church, and Alfred grew up surrounded by books. His father was a very educated person and could speak many languages. Alfred Lord Tennyson seems to have developed an interest in Arthurian legends, so old English myths and stories about King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, Sir Lancelot, the knights, and the poem The Lady of Shalott takes place in this setting. It's quite a long poem. As I say, this was the updated version, so he wrote two versions, and this was the new and improved one that came out in around 1843. On either side the river lie long fields of barley and of rye that clothe the wold and meet the sky, and through the field the road runs by to many towered Camelots. So this is describing the scene. So on either side the river lie long fields of barley and of rye. So he could be describing an environment similar to the one he grew up in Lincolnshire, where there's lots of farms, and at this time population was a lot less. We're talking 1830, so very tiny villages scattered around long fields of barley and of rye that clothe the wold and meet the sky. That simply means you have a hilly environment clothe the wold, so they're like the top of hills rolling into one another, and up and down the people go, gazing where the lilies blow, round an island there below, the island of Shalott. So this is the island. So it's a fictional island, it's a fictional world, the island of Shalott. Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver, through the wave that runs forever, by the island in the river, flowing down to Camelot. 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers overlook a space of flowers, as the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. Okay, so you have this natural scenic beauty, this fictional world that's somewhat carefree, rural, but then we have this 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers. So this is a castle, essentially, and this is where the Lady of Shalott resides. This is where she lives. And the wordplay here is very clever. This description, 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers, this very much sounds like a man-made structure. Overlook a space of flowers, and the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. So she's kind of stuck, suggesting possibly she's trapped in this castle, in this man-made structure, which is at the centre, in the middle of all of these fields, on the island of Shalott. The poem continues. By the margin, willow veiled, slides the heavy barges trailed, by slow horses and unhailed, the shallop flitteth, silken sailed, skimming down to Camelot. But who have seen her wave her hand, or at the casement seen her stand, or is she known in all the land, the Lady of Shalott? So this is essentially saying there's a road that runs by this castle that goes down to Camelot. The casement is the window. So it says, but who hath seen her wave her hand, or at the casement seen her stand, or is she known in all the land, the Lady of Shalott? So he's suggesting that she's kind of invisible. Not many people know that she's there. She's kind of lonely in this castle, far away from the city. The city of Camelot is in the distance. Only reapers reaping early, in among the bearded barley, hear a song that echoes cheerly, from the river winding clearly down to towered Camelot. And by the moon the reaper weary, piling sheaves in uplands airy, listening whispers, 'tis the fairy Lady of Shalott. So reapers, these are farmers, these are peasants who are working the land, and they're cutting the fields of barley and rye. So they're out there in the fields, ploughing the fields, and they can hear her singing. So she's singing cheerily, in among the bearded barley, hear a song that echoes cheerily from the river winding clearly down to towered Camelot. So she's in this castle, there's a road going down to Camelot, there's a river going down to Camelot. Farmers, reapers are working on the fields, and they can't actually see her, but they can hear her singing. And they're whispering, "'Tis the fairy." She's kind of like a mythological character, a rumour. It's not clear whether she exists or not. Part 2. There she weaves by night and day, a magic web with colours gay. She has heard a whisper say, a curse is on her if she stay to look down to Camelot. Now this is where the story gets interesting. So it says, there she weaves by night and day. So she's weaving a magic web with colours gay. So she sat at her desk and she's weaving a tapestry or a blanket or some kind of canvas. She's making something with her hand. She's weaving thread and she's making something. But she has heard a whisper say, a curse is on her if she stay to look down to Camelot. So if she looks out of the casement, if she looks out of the window, a curse will be upon her. That's what she has heard people whispering. So she believes that she has to continue to weave because she cannot risk the curse befalling her. And moving through a mirror clear that hangs before her all the year, shadows of the world appear. There she sees the highway near, winding down to Camelot. So she's on her desk and she is weaving a magic web, which is a tapestry, but what she is weaving, the imagery, the images that she's weaving, she gets from looking in this mirror. So she's at her desk, she can see a mirror, and through the reflection from the casement, through the window, that she's looking into the mirror and the mirror's looking outside. So this is how she sees the world, through a mirror. She's not allowed to look at the world directly. She's not allowed to look out of her window. She's not allowed to look down to Camelot, the city, because otherwise the curse will be upon her. And moving through a mirror clear that hangs before her all the year, shadows of the world appear. Shadows is reflections. So reflections from the mirror, that's what she's getting, that's what she's looking at. There the river eddy whirls, and there the surly village churls, and the red cloaks of market girls pass onward from Shalott. So from Shalott, from this island she lives on, people are passing by. They're walking down the road towards Camelot, and she can see them through her mirror. Sometimes a troop of damsels glads, an abbot on an ambling pad, sometimes a curly shepherd's lad, or a long-haired page in crimson clad, goes by to towered Camelot. And sometimes through the mirror blue, the knights come riding two and two. She had no loyal knights and true, the Lady of Shalott. So the story's unfolding. We can see that she's a lonely figure. She's watching all of these people go to Camelot, a troop of damsels, an abbot, a curly shepherd lads, long-haired page. Knights come riding two and two. She had no loyal knights and true. But in her web she still delights to weave the mirror's magic sights. But in her web she still delights, so she's making this web, this tapestry, to weave the mirror's magic sights. So she's still enchanted. She's still in this kind of delusional world where she's seeing the world through reflections in the mirror. For often through the silent nights, a funeral with plumes and lights and music went to Camelot. Or when the moon was overhead, came two young lovers lately wed. I am half sick of shadows, said the Lady of Shalott. So here you can see her almost becoming more conscious, becoming more self-conscious. Some have interpreted this poem to mean that the lady is kind of growing up from a child into womanhood, and that's an interpretation of this poem. And the line, I am half sick of shadows, So she sees two people lately wed, a man and his new wife, and she's saying, I am half sick of shadows. So this is possibly meaning that she feels incomplete, she wants someone to be with, like the two people she can see through her mirror. She has a longing for some kind of relationship. Part 3. A bowshot from her bower eaves, he rode between the barley sheaves. The sun came dazzling through the leaves, and flamed upon the brazen greaves of bold Sir Lancelot. Now this is the first time in the poem we change from Camelot and Shalott, we now have bold Sir Lancelot. And this is to emphasise the fact that he is something new. He has abruptly changed things. He has come onto the scene, is a knight in shining armour, a bowshot from her bower eave. So a bowshot simply means that he's quite close to the casement, to the window. She's up in this tower, and he has come quite close. He rode between the barley sheaves, so he's coming through the land. The sun came dazzling through the leaves, so this is the lights. He is very much seen as someone who has awakened something within her, and flamed upon the brazen greaves of bold Sir Lancelot. A red-crossed knight forever kneeled to a lady in his shield that sparkled on the yellow field beside remote Shalott. Now, the poem goes on quite a bit about this particular part of the story where he makes his arrival. He actually doesn't notice the Lady of Shalott. The gemmy bridle glittered free, like to some branch of stars we see, hung in the golden galaxy. The bridal bells rang merrily as he rode down to Camelot. And from his blazoned baldricks slung, a mighty silver bugle hung, and as he rode, his armour rung beside remote Shalott. So this is describing him as being quite a powerful figure. His mighty silver bugle, his armour rung, his blazoned baldricks slung, all in the blue, unclouded weather. Okay, so now this is not specifically looking at bold Sir Lancelot, it's now looking at the scene, it's looking at the weather, in particular unclouded weather, blue unclouded weather, so things are still rosy, things are still merry. Thick jewelled shone the saddle leather, the helmet and the helmet's feather burned like one burning flame together as he rode down to Camelot. So he's riding down to the city. As often through the purple night, below the starry clusters bright, some bearded meteor trailing light moves over still Shalott. Now this is interesting because a meteor is often associated with foretelling or foreboding, and this is suggesting that something big is about to happen, something significant, foreordains possibly. This is where you get a hidden dimension to the poem, kind of intimating that the curse is about to be broken with the meteor, trailing lights moving over still Shalott. His broad clear brow in sunlight glowed, on burnished hooves his warhorse trode, from underneath his helmet flowed, his coal-black curls as he rode down to Camelot. From the bank and from the river he flashed into the crystal mirror. Tiralira by the river sang Sir Lancelot. So he's now appearing in her mirror, and she can hear him singing. She can hear his voice singing Tiralira by the river. Okay, and now this is what happens. She left the web, she left the loom, she made three paces through the room. She saw the water lily bloom, she saw the helmet and the plume, she looked down to Camelot. Out flew the web and floated wide, the mirror cracked from side to side. The curse is come upon me, cried the Lady of Shalott. So she sees him in the mirror, and then she leaves the web, she puts down her tapestry, her weaving. She left the loom, which is her machine, her device, which she uses to weave. She made 3 paces through the room, so she moves over to the window. She saw the water lily bloom, she saw the helmet and the plume. She looked down to Camelot. So now she's looking at the city, the towers in the distance. Out now, this is when the curse falls. Out flew the web and floated wide. So now the web, the tapestry, has gone out the window. The mirror cracked from side to side. So that mirror she was looking through is cracked. So some have suggested that, by looking at the real world, by looking at the world as it is, her delusions have been cracked. And people have different interpretations. Some have suggested that this is actually what the poem is about. It's about the dissonance, it's about the conflict between the artist and the person who experiences real life. It's about someone who observes at a distance from far away the world in its various manifestations, as a poet, as a writer, versus someone who lives in the real world, experiences the real world. Because she has a longing to be in the real world. She saw people walking down to Camelot, and particularly the couple, the newlywed couple. And if you remember, she said, I am half sick of shadows, I'm half sick of reflections, I'm half sick of just looking at the world through rose-tinted spectacles, perhaps, or in a child's-like way, in living in this fantasy, far removed. She sees Sir Lancelot, and it's her interest in him as a person that makes her go over to the window. And at this point, the illusion breaks, and she then says, "The curse is come upon me." And then, in part 4, the story changes, the atmosphere changes. In the stormy east wind straining, the pale yellow woods were waning, the broad stream in his banks complaining, heavily the low sky raining over towered Camelot. So now it's raining, the banks are complaining, the pale yellow woods are waning, the stormy east winds straining. Down she came and found a boat, so she leaves the castle, beneath a willow left afloat, and round about the prow she rows, the Lady of Shalott. So she finds this boat, and she writes the Lady of Shalott on this boat. And down the river's dim expanse, like some bold seer in a trance, seeing all his own mischance, with a glassy countenance did she look to Camelot. And at the closing of the day, she loosed the chain, and down she lay. The broad stream bore her far away, the Lady of Shalott. So she's on this boat, she unchains it from the banks, and now she's floating downstream. The river is taking her to Camelot. Lying robed in snowy white, that loosely flew to left and right, the leaves upon her falling light, through the noises of the night, she floated down to Camelot. And as the boat head wound along the willowy hills and fields among, they heard her singing her last song, the Lady of Shalott. Heard a carol, mournful, holy, chanted loudly, chanted lowly, till her blood was frozen slowly, and her eyes were darkened wholly, turned to towered Camelot. For ere she reached upon the tide, the first house by the waterside, singing in her song she died, the Lady of Shalott. So she's floating downstream in a white dress, and she's singing her last song, and she dies. Under tower and balcony, by garden wall and gallery, a gleaming shape she floated by, dead pale between the houses high, silence into Camelot. So she's entering the city. Under tower and balcony, by garden wall and gallery, a gleaming shape she floated by, dead pale between the houses high, silent, she's dead. Out upon the wharves they came, knight and burgher, lord and dame, and round about the prow they read her name, the Lady of Shalott. So they've seen this boat, and they can see what she wrote, the Lady of Shalott. Who is this, and what is here? And in the lighted palace near died the sound of royal cheer, and they crossed themselves for fear, all the knights at Camelot. But Lancelot mused a little space. He said, she has a lovely face. God in his mercy lend her grace, the Lady of Shalott. So this is quite a tragic story. There's no happy ending. I think probably if if we were able to ask Alfred Lord Tennyson, he probably wouldn't be sure himself what precisely the poem is about. It could be about many things. It's a brilliant retelling of a much older story, and could possibly mean many things simultaneously. I've been thinking about it for weeks now. I heard it a few months ago for the first time and was captivated by it. I'm trying to think, what does it actually mean? Why did the mirror crack? What does that particular aspect mean? And so on and so forth. And this is one of the great things about poetry. Makes you think and gets your imagination going. You're left trying to figure out the riddle, the mystery. So I just wanted to make this video today because it's a fascinating poem. What do you think it means? Thanks for watching.